Ask the Expert, and we have a great show for you today. We are being joined by my partner, George. How you doing, George?
Good, Leticia. How you doing?
Oh, I'm
No shave November for me.
It's no anything November, but George, I hate to tell you, we're in December. So
December. I mean, no shave December.
well, George plays Santa on our annual Christmas party, which probably, who knows if we're going to be even able to do anything in New York, where, our Gestapo Governor Cuomo and our bumbling Mayor de Blasio have just about ended life entirely. And before you start getting on me that it's all because of the virus, listen, the virus is everywhere, and you look at other states and you look at other parts of New York, and life is going on, but just not in New York City's 5 boroughs. So that's a shame. And here to talk to us about how this is all affecting our children on her returning appearance on Ask the Expert is Jennifer Bohr-Cuevas, and she is a licensed clinical psychologist. Yes.
Social worker.
Social worker, sorry.
Yeah.
And she knows all about what's going on with our kids and their frame of mind. And so I thank you so much for joining us, Jennifer. Before I let you speak, I just want everybody to say it's 388 days until de Blasio is out of office. So
can't wait.
About that. Okay, so Jen, tell us what's going on. What's going on with your son? I know that you were homeschooling for a while. Tell us where you are with that.
Yeah, last time I was here, I was sharing that I was homeschooling my son because I was afraid of sending him back to district due to the restrictions, not because of COVID. However, since I was last on the show, we found that my son's special needs, he's autistic and epileptic, are way more than what homeschooling could provide. So I'm in the process now of trying to get him re-enrolled back into the public school district on remote. Again, because I don't want him in the building due to the ridiculous restrictions that they have. So now I can tell you that I am one of the parents I suffer along with you in dealing with the school administration and the Committee on Special Education.
Well, we have quite a few parents who have children in Staten Island. It's called District 75, and that's the district that handles special needs kids. And they feel trapped. But they also feel underserved because, especially the autistic children with sensory problems, their services in this blended learning environment, the services are being offered remotely. So if you are a child with sensory problems, you cannot focus on that computer screen even to do your classwork. But if you're getting speech and OT and PT, how do you do that if you have to stare at a screen to do it? The parents are telling me that they can't. And so I've recommended that all of them get their prescriptions from their doctors and arm themselves and get down to the Department of Education in New York City and the State Department of Ed and everywhere else in your local county Department of Ed and demand that you be allowed to have these services one-on-one outside of the school, and that the feds and the state and then your district ultimately will pay for those services. And until you can get that clear, if you do have insurance, you should be able to use your insurance to do that. And so everybody should just check that out because it's really important. And just don't take my word for it. Don't run out and, do it. First, call your insurance carrier, make sure that your child's covered, make sure they'll pay for the services, then speak to your doctors. and get yourself armed. Well, I guess what I'm saying is you don't need to be helpless. Don't feel that you can't do something, be proactive because you're between a rock and a hard place. Every single child is entitled to services. So,
I have learned a lot in the last 8 months, and there are definitely ways now that parents can minimize suffering for their children with good advocacy. And I want to share that in the return of my own son to public school, one of the things that I'm advocating for is that they shave the remote time by 50%. And most likely I'm going to get that granted. I'm just waiting to hear. So it is possible to craft a plan for your child that works for your child. And what I've been telling all the parents that I work with is that it's okay that your child's special need has now become that they can't handle all the remote time, the screen time that is required of them.
and it's also, I mean, we've had an optometrist, optician on, and it's starting to affect the children's eyes. Sitting in front of that computer screen, and even with the blue glasses, the shape of the child's eyes are starting to flatten out. So these are we're trying to cure something now, but we're setting ourselves up for problems in the future. And I guess the painful reality is that we are not following the science. Everybody talked about following the science, follow the science, follow the science. Well, the science, says kids belong in school. They have to go to school. And if you look around the world, around the globe, there are kids that never stopped going to school. And things are going much better there than they are here. I mean, George, I know you live with a couple of kids. So
Yeah, I mean, the numbers speak loudly to me. These kids are the least at risk of any possible segment of society that we have right now. The under 20 rate of mortality is next to nil. So who are we protecting exactly with this rule? Why I can't figure out who we're protecting. Is it the government trying to protect the random grandparent that my kid possibly may be in touch with? Or is that my job to make sure that they're safe? Because to me, it's my job. The government thinks it's their job. And it's ruining our kids. I see these two kids at home. Listen, there's an app where you can see how much time they're on the screen. So I ran that sucker, and 10 and 11 hours a day, including from the phone and school. That's every waking minute of the day spent buried in this screen. Without social interaction, these kids are rapidly becoming antisocial. They don't even want to go out anymore. Hey, what do you got? You guys want to go to the park? No. They're turning into vegetables, and it's really scaring me. And everyone's talking about the danger of COVID, but no one's considering these other dangers, and they're large. They're not to be trifled, not small dangers. These kids are going to be ruined for life.
Kim Salvo says it's not only vision, it's posture and attention are all being impacted.
Yeah.
And that's true, Kim. I mean, everything is being impacted. So talk to us about that, Jen. I mean, I read a statistic that teen suicide is up by 25%. What's happening with these kids? What are you seeing is happening with them? Are they being depressed? I mean, what's happening with this lockdown?
Yeah, I even, when I was here on the show the last time, I was calling it the new public health crisis of children. It's nothing short of. Yes, the suicide rates are up. Kids are feeling isolated. Kids are not getting the social emotional learning or experiences that they should be having. And one thing that George said that sort of captured me was that they're even losing the motivation to try and make those things happen. I see it in my own son. I'll say to him, come on, let's make a play date with so-and-so. And he'll say to me, no, I don't want to. He's almost getting used to being alone. And
Yeah.
it's very heartbreaking. And I think you're right, George, that we're not talking about it enough.
You can't talk about it. If you talk about it, you're trying to kill someone's grandmother. You're not allowed to talk about it.
That's
That's
right.
what upsets me the most. That someone's going to turn to me and go, well, you don't care about people. No, I care more than you do. And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. So it absolutely incenses me when I see that narrative and our media hammering the same narrative back at us, that if I suggest anything other than boy in the bubble, I am trying to kill someone's grandmother. I'm tired of it, and it's not true.
It started with our Emmy Award-winning governor, Cuomo, right? That said that we should not do anything because his mother, mother's health is at stake. And while I very much appreciate our older generation, I think that they would even say to you, they don't want the youth of America to stop living because of them. And that's part of being the greatest generation. I think that they care about the young people in the future of America, and not only America, but the world, right? I mean, it really is. It's impacting everybody, and it's impacting us for years to come, because I read a study that the lockdowns, and this was in the summer, the lockdowns equated to the loss of life years of children in the world. 5.5 million life years lost for the children, for the generation of children that have been locked down right now. That was just in June with that small lockdown. Can you imagine what's going on now? I mean, so we've willingly taken 5.5 million life years from our children. And when we talk about handling this in any way other than it's being handled right now, we're considered.
You want to know a crazy statistic that I just looked up?
Yeah.
Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people ages 10 to 24 after accidents.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not COVID. Not COVID.
Suicide. Yeah.
Suicide.
Why
are people
running? And then suicide. Yeah.
So what can we do, Jen? I mean, as parents, I mean, obviously we're doing a lot. There's rallies, there's pushback, there's all that. But what can we do that's within our power to make things better for our kids?
I think one thing I want to say too is that I see the parents almost becoming pandemic fatigued and losing their motivation. They want so badly to fight for their kids, but I think the combination of them not knowing how and the pandemic fatigue is just sort of slowing down what I'm seeing in terms of fight. I see this, COVID and the school situation as a fluid process. It's something we should never stop advocating for our child. So parents, you've got to muster up everything you have and stay in the game, and think outside the box. Unfortunately, now you're going to have to be the one that provides the solutions, that provides the answers to the school districts on how to educate your child during this time, and provide the answers and opportunities to your child's social life. So don't wait for your child to set up a get-together. Go ahead and do it. This is not the time to be waiting to see what sort of motivation our kiddos have and what their independence skills are. Put that on a shelf for a little while. Keep pushing, if that sort of makes sense. Keep pushing. Take care of yourself. Put the oxygen mask on yourself so that you can then put it on your children.
We're joined by a great friend, Pam Silvestri, and she's with the Staten Island Advance, and she does a great podcast every morning about the
They need
restaurant.
to watch her podcast. It's really well done.
Everybody, it's still at 9 o'clock in the morning, and she talks to restaurateurs and and tells us what's going on. And Pam also has a farm on Staten Island, and a little farm, and she grows her own vegetables. She's a great mom, and she says that the stress on the kids is terrible, and schools give consistency, and that's absolutely true. Schools do give consistency, but even the schools are now inconsistent, Pam. So, it's insane that the one constant that our kids have is actually being taken away from them. And that's, I think, why we're all fighting so hard to get kids back to school full time. So we're also joined by Marie Farrell. She's a great mom of a child from District 75, special needs, and she's part of our parents group that we have formed, which is now over almost 6,000 parents who speak daily. And last night, Jen, you should know this, last night I hosted a Zoom for the parents to talk about what we could do as a group, to a couple of things that are upsetting the parents. Number one is they want their kids back in school 5 days a week, and they want to have the extracurricular activity back in school, because we see that in other areas of New York, that's the case. In Florida, that's the case. In South Carolina, that's the case. I believe in Virginia. And if you're, tuning in from somewhere other than New York, please let us know. What is it like in your state? Are your kids back in school full time? How are they doing? So that's the one thing that they want. The second thing is that they want to be able to have the option for children that are concerned about being tested for COVID in the school system by strangers and not by their school nurse or anyone else. They want to have the option to be there when their kid is tested. Now, we do understand that, introducing a parent into the school building, in a pandemic might be a difficult thing to do. So we're saying allow the parent to take their child after hours and have them tested, after school hours, have them tested, and then send in the results. We had a CEC meeting on Monday, and I asked Dr. Varma, who is Mayor de Blasio's aide for public health, and who was laying out what the test was for and why they were doing it. And he said that the reason that they're testing the way they are is that they want, that K through 5, is that they want to get a snapshot of the community, this building in the community, right? Which makes sense, because that young age group, they have to attend their zone school. So that's the school closest to their house. But what he also said was, so it was important for them to have the test on that date from that school building and who was in that school building at the time. So that meant teachers and staff and kids. And that would go into the data set that they can then have a model to see what's going on in the community. Makes perfect sense, right? We all agree. Because you can't force grown free adults to get tested, but you can test the child and then link back to the family. What doesn't make sense is I asked, well, if you're creating this data log, don't you want as many people as possible to be tested so that you get a good subset? And don't you want, and if you limit the number of kids that can come to school by saying, if you don't let us test you here, you're not going to get tested, that you can't get that broad spectrum of what's going on in your community. Right. And worse yet, if you're talking about kids from the community, if my kid is remote and your kids are in school, don't you think my remote kid is going to want to go out and play with, or do stuff in the community? So afterwards, they're all going to be connected together. And you're not going to know if that kid picked up COVID from a kid that was remote. and it's, so it didn't make any sense that they were being hardline on this. Do you know what he told me in front of 70 other parents? Well, COVID is difficult. Everybody has to just suck it up and do their best.
That's following the science, huh, Doc?
Yep.
That's
So,
amazing.
think about that. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But so, Doc, tell me if that's the kind of attitude that we're having, from our officials who are telling us what to do. I mean, what hope do these kids have? Really, truly.
And at home vaccinations has been fine up until now. For vaccinations, this is a test. What do they think? We're going to lie about the result of the test? Is that what they think? I don't understand why you can't have it done by your own doctor and bring it into school with a note.
Well, you can even have it done by one of their labs, that are in the area. I mean,
but what about my pediatrician? Maybe it's my child, and that's who I trust.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It makes no sense.
I don't either. Pam says the Catholic schools have been great, solid. My heart goes out to my beautiful public school teacher friends who love their work and want to focus on teaching their kids. That's true. We had lots and lots of teachers on with us last night. Go ahead, Jen.
I was going to just say that I even have teachers reaching out to me who private message me about how they're being forced to be tested, and it's not a good situation. People's freedoms are being compromised, and they know that if they don't take the test, they can't go to work.
Yeah, they're frightened. They're not so nervous about the test as they are, it seems, about the mandatory vaccination that Mulgrew is talking about. And I can understand that. I don't think that anybody should be mandated to be vaccinated. I think that you should have options, and we don't always offer them. Marie Farrell asks, what's the story with windows mandated to be open on buses and in buildings? Marie, I haven't gotten a chance to look into that, but I do understand that there are some schools that are keeping the windows open for ventilation.
Yeah.
And, the kids are freezing out. That's unfortunate. Jamie Ann joined us. It must be devastating for you, Pam, to see what is happening here between our small businesses and our schools. Many of the restaurateurs are working parents who have children in the public school system. Yeah. Pam gets it on both sides. She's got the heartbreak. She's a mother of small children, and she sees the heartbreak firsthand. It stinks. Jamie says everybody's reporting they're freezing, and then there's a conversation going on the thread. But let's get back to Jen, because Jen, looking, we're coming to Christmas now. And Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all the other holidays. It's a time of year for many people that they're depressed. And, kids generally are excited about the holidays. Are you seeing a change in children and their outlook towards the holidays?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to say, the people that I've been speaking with and that I'm in touch with on social media seem to be following the guidelines of not hosting or attending any sort of large holiday celebration. So it is another form of depression for kids. Even in my own house, I have Christmas Eve, a big Christmas Eve party every year. And I believe I'm going to be canceling that. I hope none of my relatives are watching. I have not notified them yet. But my poor Jesse, my son, he just keeps perseverating on it every day. Are we still having our party? Are we still having our party? It's one of the only things that he's looking forward to. And now I'm going to have to tell him most likely not. So yes, my long answer to your short question is we're in the holidays, and it is sad. And it is also sad because we are grieving. There are a group of people that were at my Christmas Eve party last year that are no longer with us because they died of COVID. And my family was hoping this year that we could be together so that we could help each other cope with the multiple losses that we had. So we're also grieving as a nation. Lots of moving parts, lots of emotions going on. Very hard, very, very hard.
I can't wait to shelve 2020. Nothing about 2020 was good that I can recall. It's been nothing but a series of, I mean, we had pandemics, presidential scandals, impeachments, killer bees. I don't know if you remember those.
Okay, Firenadoes.
Yeah, I'll move on from this year with a smile.
It's, I don't know that we're not headed towards more, right? That's the unfortunate thing. Kim Salvo says that she runs a Cub Scout pack, and we are able to meet in person under strict COVID guidelines. And both the kids and their parents are ecstatic because for most of them, it is the only in-person interactive time they get. If New York City was organized in the summer of our 1.1 million students, DOE could have done it. I agree with you, Kim. And the other thing that's very scary to me, and that we don't always talk about, is what is going to happen to the economy, and not only the economy but the state and city budget. Right, we're already at a deficit in New York City and state. And with so many children being pulled out of public school, just for anybody that didn't know, 31,000 kids are no longer in the public school system. They actually have been disenrolled, and that means that the public school education system loses approximately, if they're regular ed, it's about $25,000. If the kid has an IEP, it can go up even more. If the child is in a District 75, it can go up to about $75,000. This is money that flows down through the federal government to the city, from the feds to the state to the city. So just do the math on that. Let's say it was at the minimal number of 20,000. 31,000 children gone from the education system. And now with these ridiculous, heartless rules that you must be tested without a parent present because of some need for a data set to look a certain way, and the short-sightedness of of Dr. Varma, we might lose even more. And I think that the Times wrote an article about the disparity between the poor and the economic classes in the public education system. So go ahead, Jen, you talk about that.
I think we did lose already, because my understanding is that on Monday, they had many more kids sign up for remote, because the parents are just not having it, are just not allowing the random COVID testing. And I understand it, because anybody who's a mom or dad would understand that you want to be there when your child needs to have a Band-Aid put on them. It's very hard to conceptualize trying to have your child have a medical procedure. It is still a medical procedure. I know it's a swab in the nose, but it's a medical procedure. And as a parent, you want to know who's putting that swab up your child's nose and how they are treating your child. The medical is merging with the school, and it's a bad situation. And so I think that we have already lost a lot more children to remote due to just this rule of COVID testing that doesn't even make sense for all the reasons you outlined earlier.
And if we don't recognize that our school system needs to bend a little bit, we are going to lose more and more children, not only from the school system, but people from the state. And that is my greatest fear as a Staten Islander, as a candidate for borough president, as a a grandmother to a school-age child. As a business owner, if people leave this state, they take their wealth with them. They take their tax dollars with them. They take, their community service and their years of working in the community with them. They take so much. They take their, the friends of their friends gone.
And generations to follow them.
And if we're going to literally allow this great fissure to erupt within our school system, between the haves and the have-nots, if you will, then we are truly doing a disservice to the people that need us the most. I mean, I say this often when we talk about people living in poverty. The reason that I don't support projects and rather support it like an 80-20 lifestyle where 20% is affordable is because when you group people who are economically impoverished all together in one area, the likelihood of that person being able to pick themselves up and get out of poverty is slim. Why? Because they're hanging out in the same area with the same group of people who are all alike and who are all also economically impoverished. And so the opportunity is not there for them. But if you put a group of people that are economically impoverished in a building with a group of people who are working and who are paying, a higher amount of rent, the opportunity for a job, for a connection to be a step up is there for them, right? I mean, how many times have you gotten a tip from somebody that there was a job opening because of where you shopped, or because of where you work, or where you lived, or who you hung out with? That's how we move people out of poverty, by putting people together and not letting anybody know who's the disadvantage and who isn't. You don't put a stigma on someone's back. You give everybody the same opportunity, and all of a sudden you watch people pull themselves up. But if you keep people down, and that's what's going to happen with the school system. If we have children in the school system who are economically impoverished, we are going to really destroy the lifespan of our future generations in the New York City school system, right? So anyway, I went on too long. I'm sorry, Jen. Regina Tenori is on with us, and she says it's disgusting what they are doing to our children. Parents feel like their hands are tied, but we need to keep fighting for our children. These are our children, not the chancellors, not the mayors, not the governors. At what point does it end? They want from us, and they will continue to want more. So what do you see, Jen? I mean, like the future. What kind of psychological mind games can we play with the chancellor to get him to stop with this mandatory testing stuff?
Wow, that's a big question. I've heard many different people with different ideas as to how to try to do that, and I don't know that they're all legal. One of the things that I have been sort of ministering as I go on media is to encourage people to keep trying to fight and advocate within their own neck of the woods, within their own district, their own school district, within their own neighborhood. A lot of people think that by trying to take on Governor Cuomo and friends, that's the way to go. But you want to know something? In all of those executive orders that the governor put out, he left a lot of room for interpretation and for the school districts and the powers that be in them to make their own rules. So, I've been trying to tell people, stop trying to take down Governor Cuomo and go to your superintendent. And I'm finding, at least on Long Island, that when people protest in their own school district, they're getting results.
Oh,
So,
really? So that's good.
yeah.
Yeah, fight the fight, you can win. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. You're not going to take down Cuomo right now, right now. Maybe the Supreme Court will, with any
He's
luck.
immune. He's absolutely immune to the protesting. There were protesters on his property a few weeks ago, and the man is immune. And all elected officials, not all, but I do believe the ones that work with him, Mayor de Blasio, they're all immune. So but the people who are not immune are the people in your own school district. You do not want to be a school superintendent right now, or a principal, or any sort of decision maker in a school. But the squeaky wheel gets the oil. When I had my own child special ed meeting last week to work out the kinks of getting him re-enrolled, they were trying to get me to agree to things that it had nothing to do with re-enrolling my child and trying to shave off all of the remote. They were trying to get him to have additional medical examinations. They wanted all kinds of information. I finally said, people, let me remind you of what I do. I better start seeing some flexibility, or you're going to see yourselves on the 6 o'clock news. And that was with having a lawyer there. And all of a sudden, flexibility appeared. So I think that, again, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I want to just say one more thing, and then I'll be quiet.
Keep going.
Talk as much as you want.
That's why we have you on. We don't want to talk. We want you to talk.
I'm partnered with New York Parents and Teachers Against Distance Learning. I do a lot of media for them. And I posted the experience I had at my child's CSE meeting last week, and then tried to put some bullets in of how to empower the parents and how to advocate for your child's remote needs. And some of the feedback that I got from them was, well, if most parents can't afford to have an attorney. Most parents don't work in media. I bet, my child wouldn't get the same result as your child. You know what? I want to say, no, we all have media available to us, and media has been responsive when you call them and you discuss a malpractice that's happening. They do follow up on it. And every parent has a voice, and every parent can learn the skills that are needed now to advocate in COVID. So you don't need a lawyer necessarily. And I didn't pay for the lawyer. The lawyer is a wonderful friend of mine who did it for me. So believe me. So I just want to empower parents to know that you have the same things available to you that I do, or other people who seem to have it together. Use all the tools that you have and go and get them.
All right. So we're being joined now with Gina Joffrey. She runs the New York City DOE Parents Facebook page. I'm going to bring her on screen now. And hi, Gina. How are ya?
Hey, Gina.
It's been a rough morning.
Gina, today Jake went to school with his protest. So why don't you tell everybody what's going on with that? And
so I know, as far as my school was concerned, he had a reading prompt last week, a journal entry on what he's excited about. After we had spoken about his Bill of Rights under the Student Bill of Rights in the DOE, and that he has right to expression in person to form a peaceful protest. And I told him, if this is a route that you'd be willing to go, you could speak your mind and you could speak your feeling, and it should be backed up. So he chose to write about his protest. So now I know it's out there in the school community, my school community, where members of the school for 10 years, I have a sophomore in high school. This is Jake's 5th grade year. And is this the way we want a 5th grade year to be? No, I fundraised for the school for all of my years there. We have a beautiful ballroom dance program that they're not getting this year, part of my fundraising. And, I'm angry. I'm angry as a parent. And I'm angry, and what made me really think today is because I've spent so much time researching and reading and ripping everything apart on where there has to be something in black and white that the parents can use. Because this is forceful signing. And I've brought nebulizers up every single year that my kids would need a nebulizer and antibiotic doses and everything, and now all of a sudden somebody that they don't even know that's trained for 6 hours can come in and swab your child's nose. What is this going to lead into for the future? Maybe it won't lead into anything, but what do we know right now? Right now, everything is just being taken away from us little by little, piece by piece, and everybody's just sitting around watching it happen. But today, the biggest thing was that principal collected everybody else's and looked at mine, specifically went through mine. Came over, let my son in the building with his friends who also signed the protest, at least respectfully didn't speak to me in front of my son, and basically told me that it has to go to legal and that likely Jake won't be allowed in the building on Friday. Now, are they going to have a courtesy call and tell me not to bring him? Or are they going to do it on Friday? Because what I'm hoping is they do it to him on Friday because they are the bad guys. Right now, me not signing, I'm the bad guy. Mommy didn't sign, so you can't come to school. So this is a big problem because you know what? A child isn't going to process it as we're processing as an adult. That it's our children, we're not there, they're unsupervised, and this is forcefulness and whatever it is. The child is just going to look at the parent and say, because you didn't sign my consent form, I can't go to school. Mm-hmm. And it's and then you saw him, Leticia, this morning, his face, he was like, and everything, you could see.
He had a cheerleading squad.
He was exhilarated to be walking in the building. And listen, he is the kind of kid, I'm lucky he's strong. He's very strong emotionally. He's very strong socially. He's the kind of kid, you take him for hot chocolate and you let his friends come over and he'll be okay. Because he's still going to be the kid that's on Fortnite and on Madden and FaceTiming and group texting and everything. He's not going to pull himself out. As a matter of fact, I'll make it a point for him to pull the kids more in if he's going to be forced to remote. But I am not. I'm standing my ground. I'm not signing. I'm not consenting. There's something in my gut. There's something not right about it. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is.
Gina, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Would you be happy if they said, well, go get your own test and bring it in?
100%.
That's what we're fighting
That's
for.
all we're asking for.
Why that escapes our government?
There is a reason for it. And unfortunately, we don't have any answers to this reason. We're not getting answers from the doctor that spoke on the CEC meeting the other night. It's just whatever de Blasio wants.
Well, I think the doctor from the CEC meeting, said that it's because this was their idea of, their test data set, and they wanted it specifically on that day, on that moment. What he didn't say was, and we don't trust that the parents are going to get them to us. That was the rest of the sentence that he didn't say.
Well, listen, it's very simple. If you choose to take the child for a test, the PCR test comes back in 3 days. You cannot come to school for 3 days without that form. And I'm fine with that. Because at this point, for the amount of hours and the amount of days that he's already missed, what's another 3 days?
It's not going to matter, right?
4 weeks for him to just go get this test. Because now our principal based on my parent letter, because in the addendum, my son wrote a consent letter, has students signing on to, the protest letter has students signing on to it. Everything is consensual. So we wrote a parent letter. As parents, we're consenting to our children joining the protest under the premises of the CDC states it is illegal and unethical to test a child that doesn't want to be tested.
Right.
And then I wrote, you're telling us a percentage, but your numbers in my school alone don't match what you're supposed to be doing. Because my school in November, when they were only supposed to come once a month and test 20%, they came twice in 9 days. They came on Wednesday, November 4th, and Friday, November 13th.
Right.
Wednesday and Friday is the same cohort group. My son's cohort B. So cohort A was not tested. They took 60-something teachers one day, 60-something another, 30-something students, and 30-something students. My son's class alone with 10 students. One day, 4 students were taken, and the next day, 6 were taken. 2 of his friends were tested twice. Him and one other boy were the only 2 that still hadn't signed the consent.
And that's where their data set goes off the rails.
And this is all published information, because I can compare 2 other schools in my neighborhood, neighboring borough, 10307 on 10309. One of the schools did not test 1 student in 2 days of testing, and another school didn't test any students in 2 days of testing.
Right. So it goes back to the situation that the district is so big, the New York City School District is so big, that they can put some standards in place, but they're not likely going to be followed. And I want to bring Jamie Ann. Jamie Ann is joining us backstage. I want to bring her in with us. Jamie Ann is doing a rally. Hi, Jamie Ann. How are you?
Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing?
Okay. So
So nice to finally meet you guys.
So what we're seeing is that the system is so big that the mistakes are being made. And in Queens, Tracy, who is a mom on the DOE page and also happens to be the cousin of a friend of mine, her kid had no consent and she was a PTA mom. And they pulled that kid 8 years old. And even though he was told to say no, and he said no, they still tested him without a consent form. And, he said to his mom, I was afraid to, fight with them because they're my teachers. They're my, what am I supposed to do? So could you imagine the stress that child
How traumatizing that is.
So basically, that is definitely something that needs to be addressed, is the mental stress of that, because we're telling them, make sure nobody touches you. This is something I think that every parent goes through with their child. Make sure nobody makes you feel uncomfortable. Make sure nobody touches you. We go through the whole, that's my daughter. So we go through the whole spiel of, this is your body. It needs to be respected. So now we're going into asking to take consent of minors, of our children, in a situation where there was never a time when our children were never with us in a doctor's office. And the problem that we are all having with this is that the description of the people that are doing the tests are, what are they? Trained medical. It was, I forgot how the wording was, but it was something like somebody that was like a trained medical person, not someone that was a doctor or a nurse, or, there might be times when a nurse actually does the test, but they can't guarantee that. So a trained medical person could be someone that was from the health department that watched a video for 6 hours that's going to be performing this test on your child. A lot of people are also saying that they're giving the Q-tip to the child and they're asking the child to do the stick themselves. So now, how do you expect a child to understand like how far you're supposed to go, how not far you're supposed to go? I've been approached by a lot of people that are not understanding why Gina, me, Gina, I, Christine, and all the other girls that are doing this rally with us. What's the big deal? It's just a little Q-tip. It's a little tip of your nose, and the big deal is that it's just one more thing that they're taking away from us. We complied with the masks. We complied with them sitting 6 feet apart at the schools. We complied with them sitting in the same room for 6 hours. They eat lunch at their desk. They don't get to go out of the classroom for extracurricular activities. Maybe if it's a nice day, they'll go outside in gym. They're not allowed to take their masks off in gym. So how much more do you expect the parents of New York to comply with? And I just think that this is something that really needs to be addressed, because if we don't get a handle on this, we all know what's coming down the road.
Yeah, it's coming quick too. You have to be very careful.
Warp speed.
And I look at Saturday, Saturday Night Live's allowed to have their live audiences. Did you guys know that? So they're allowed to have an entire studio packed with people because that's essential. And our kids are suffering in this manner.
Well,
Our government has no consistency.
yeah, Saturday Night Live is paying this the audience. That's how they got around the regulation. That, so we see that there are things that can get around the regulation.
So wait a minute, I have a comment. Saturday Night Live is allowed to perform because they're paying the audience. What about the arts? What about Broadway?
Right.
My friend's son is a Broadway star. He was Little Calogero in Bronx Tale, and he was supposed to start a starring role in a show that was premiering in April called Caroline or Change. He's already aged out of his role. He didn't even perform.
Oh, wow.
They're devastated. They heard, now I knew months ago that Broadway pushed to the spring of 21. And because of them, because I know they're Broadway family. But they're saying longer than that. They're saying it's going to go out past the spring.
I think they're saying June of 2021. I think that's what they
There's
said.
no hotels for people to stay in. People can't stay in hotels. So nothing's open. The restaurants are not open. So why would tourists come here? So if the tourists aren't coming and the people aren't visiting, and if there are no restaurants, if there's no New York experience, why should Broadway open? And it's like the chicken and the egg. You lose one aspect of what makes New York great, and then you lose the rest. When people come to New York, they want to go to St. Patrick's Cathedral, they want to go shopping, they want to go to eat, they want to go to theater. Which one of those things can you do right now? None. You can't do any. So our tourist season is gone. But when you compare that though to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, or Florida, or other places around the country and around the world, they've managed to keep their tourist season because they thought and they figured it out. But in New York, it always has to be worse and more difficult. Colleen Mahoney has joined us. She's our regular, and so is my mom.
Hey, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Okay, so Jamie and Gina, tell us, what are we doing on Wednesday, a week from today at 3 p.m. on Amboy Road? Tell us what we're doing, Jamie.
So basically what we're asking for is support. I'm working with Leticia and Sample to figure out the legality of all this, but we're asking for support to have people come there with their children to have a voice on what's going on and how they feel, how we feel that the mandatory testing is unfair to our children, to the staff of the schools, our teachers, our paraprofessionals. Our paraprofessionals are very important. And I don't think that they're recognized enough. I would like to say something about them too, because they do work really hard. I also want to say that the parents that work, they were forced to sign this consent form in order to get back to work. And it's not right to give somebody that is in a situation that a lot of us have been in this lockdown, ultimatums instead of choices. None of us have choices anymore. We're given ultimatums. We are told that we either sign this consent form or we go full remote. And for the teachers, it's either you consent or we withhold your pay. it's extortion.
Bullying.
It's a complete bullying for an organization that preaches about bullying, about learning about bullying and setting up all these workshops about bullying. It's wrong. And I had to start somewhere. I didn't know where to start. I reached out to Leticia to ask her, her advice on this. I know that she has fought this fight for a very long time in different ways with the special needs community. So that's what we're going to be doing. We want to give children the chance to speak. And we also want to explain that we do want safety for our teachers. We do want safety for our children and all the staff. What we don't want is to be forced to do it in the school without us present. We know that this is going to lead to forced and mandated vaccinations, and we know that once it gets passed with the and the DOE, that it's going to go to every other city agency. So that's why we're hitting the ground running with this. And I know that December 16th is not the end. It is just the beginning of what we have to do.
So I want to just, I want to ask Jen to comment. Jen, so we all agree, I think the parents, that the kids should be at the rally. Do you agree that they should participate in this rally, Jen?
Absolutely. Every protest I've gone to since the quarantine, I take my son with me and he marches right behind me with his signs and let me back into school. And yes, they need to hear from the children. I think that it could be a very powerful thing to hear from the children. And I also want to add that during the rally, don't be afraid to use names. Don't be afraid to, to call out certain districts, where that they've malpracticed in some way with the testing, or don't be afraid to use Carranza's name or use the names. Use the districts. These are the people that they need to be recognized for what they are or aren't doing. And I want to say too that Cuomo was saying the other day on one of his Emmy Award-winning, TV appearances that the schools must be doing something right because all the kids are masked, they're behind glass, they're in their COVID cages. So if the schools are doing it so right, then why isn't it possible to make another leap and let some of the parents in that choose to be present when their kids are tested? If they're masked, if the parent is following the rules of the school building, then why can't they go in? Or why can't they set up a separate location for the parent and the child to be together? That's not an excuse to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Jen, Jamie, I muted your microphone only because we were getting feedback. That I let you talk. Obviously, you want to speak, just open your mouth. I'll unmute you. I just wanted to stop the feedback. So, Jen, you think that it is so it's good for the kids too to be empowered and to be a part of the protest. There's there's so many people that are like nasty about you're exposing your kids to COVID. There's so many people that are critical. You say it's empowering for them to be there.
It's empowering, and look, if kiddos that are able to speak at a protest, they understand They have a level of understanding of what they're fighting for, and I think that it will help them emotionally to know that they are part of the fight. My son, Channel 11, has followed my son through the pandemic. In terms of his progress with school and whatnot. And he loves doing the segments because he feels like his voice is heard and that he gets his points across. So I think it's a great idea. And if I am there next week, I do plan on bringing him with me.
Okay, fantastic. Sal Curto has joined us, and he says that they're giving us ultimatums, not choices, and that's true, Sal. The thing that I resent the most is that they know that they have us by the short one. So Jamie, go ahead. Tell us what else we need to know. And Gina, my mom wants to know if you're okay, because whenever you put your head in your hands like that, she thinks you have a headache.
It was really a rough morning. Like, I didn't even know if I was going to pull myself together to get on. I think everything all the anger finally just turned into tears this morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's horrible. Horrible.
You're not the only one. I mean, I watch my.
But I can't listen. And I don't know for sure, but I know my pediatrician, and I know my pediatrician is a believer that a lot of this is political, this virus, and that it's a lot of it is a hoax. And I know that if there's some way, if I talk to him about my feeling on it, I think he'll agree with me, and I think he would probably sign. But the medical form is different from the IEP form. The IEP form is based on a current IEP, and it's going right to the school psychologist. The medical form is some bozo that's hired by de Blasio that has no medical experience. One of my dear friends, her daughter just had brain surgery. I forgot what she had, but it was like, I think one of the areas of the brain was putting pressure on the vertebrae in the neck. And as she was growing, the pressure was getting worse. So they had to like make a hole in her skull so her brain can kind of grow through. Serious surgery. This poor baby, 8 years old. They denied her medical exemption. Her daughter had brain surgery. She's like in panic mode. And I'm like, Mayor, you can't sign it. You can't sign it. Don't let them test this baby.
Again, this is where the media, I'm sorry to cut you off, Gina, but this is where the media could come into play. And I would the story of this instantly. And let me tell you something, when a district goes on the news, and I know you guys are New York City, it's the biggest district, but on Long Island, property taxes go down the minute a story goes on the news about a certain district. So, I mean, there are implications for bringing bad stories to the forefront.
Well, Pam Silvestri is on with us, so hopefully she'll take some of this away and actually, and get it to the right people and write a story about it, even though she's a restaurant writer. But you're right. Look, I love how passionate Jen gets.
Yeah, with good reason. We're slowly witnessing the chipping away of freedom. And one thing I've learned in my 2 years, I don't even know how old I am, is once you take something away, it's hard to get it back.
Exactly.
Very difficult to unwind something, especially in our government today. People get complacent, things get calm, and they forget. We cannot let this go, because it's going to chip away one flake at a time. First it's 15 days of mask wearing. Then it's Joe Biden saying, well, just another 100 days of mask wearing. There's no time out stamp on these governor's orders, are there, Leticia? They don't time out. They don't say until January 15th.
That is the problem with government. The problem with government, there are still rules on the books, believe it or not, that if you read palm reading is illegal in the city of New York, and you could be arrested for taking money for it. So soothsaying, palm reading, psychic readings, you can be arrested for that in the city of New York. That law is still on the books. You can't hang your clothes out on the clothesline. That law is still on the books. The problem with making laws is that nobody ever repeals them. And if you look through the laws on the books in most cities, some of them are ridiculous and they need to be removed. And that's why what George said, what Jamie and Gina and Jen said, You can't give an inch. You give an inch and they take everything. And that's why we're fighting so hard. So to Pete Davidson and to the New York Times and to the Daily News, and to all those other publications and ABC and CBS and NBC that want to make it like Staten Islanders are just a bunch of it's Staten Island. No, you should be going, bravo, Staten Island, because every time we win, we set a precedent so that the rest of the city can win.
And we make them think twice about trying another one too, because they don't want to deal with, the squeaky wheel, like Jen said earlier. They don't want to deal with the squeaky wheel. So hopefully we're scaring them off of further intrusion, but who knows?
Well, who knows is right. So scrolling, go ahead, Jen.
I just want to say too, though, that I think that now with this second wave of COVID, it's not going to be met with let's all sing "We Are the World." I think it's going to be met with anger and reactivity, rebelliousness. I mean, look at what happened in the Danny Presti situation. I think people are going to be more apt to want to fight now and stand up for their rights and stand up for their families. This is what it's come down to.
Yeah. So just giving people some information, go to parentnyc.com to sign the lawsuit. Sign on parents, and they're planning to file in court on the 14th. If you go to the Gina, say the name of the Facebook page for the parents.
It's NYC DOE Coalition.
All right. And so
My principal just left a message on my voicemail that they said my paperwork is not an option. It is either full consent or full remote.
Okay, so then we know that we need to come out to support you on Friday, right? There'll probably be a
What do I do? Am I going to do that to him though? If I already know that they're not going to let him in?
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, if you want to do a press conference to let people know that they're not going to let him in, you can do that. You don't have to go to the school. You can go anywhere.
Yeah. What I may do is I mean, I have to tell you, like the girl who actually started the page, her name is Christina Cipollone. They were acquainted with her. Christina has a first grader and a 1-year-old baby. So she doesn't have a lot of the freedom that I have, let's say, to be on Facebook. My kids work independently. I have a sophomore in high school that, he goes in every 2 days, 2 days in, 2 days out. When he's home, he's in his room and he's on his classes. My 5th grader is a very, very, well-rounded, self-starting, smart kid, gets it. So I don't have to be as attentive to him. She is a busy mom. Husband works. So she can't be as involved as, let's say, I'm involved. But like she has a big issue with all of these rallies. Because if you look at everything, and even let's go, I mean, we don't want to, this is about the kids in school. When you go back to Max, and all they got out of it was the hospitals are filling up. Look at these people on top of each other with no masks. Everyone's on top of each other with no masks at the rallies. Listen, could we try for next Wednesday and make it mandatory? And if someone doesn't have a mask, maybe we get a box of those blue surgical masks.
Yeah.
Give them to people. Is it an option?
Of course.
We do that at every event.
Especially if we want to do and we want to be impactful. Part of the rule right now is mask. And when to have our kid in school, we've already said, as much as we hate them, as much as we don't want our kid wearing the mask in school, to have them there, we'll give them the mask. You know what I'm saying? And I know she's been really, really, really adamant, thinking that the media is taking the wrong thing out of everything by saying they don't wear masks. They're on top of each other. They're this, they're that, whatever the case is.
But they're going to do that.
I also think that it's going to be misconstrued that way no matter what we do. There's always going to be people that are going to say that what we're doing is selfish. I never realized that fighting for my child was selfish. We're going to be, we can walk around with a Tyvek suit at this rally, and they're still going to say something that, you know, we could be spraying aerosols and doing whatever we got to do, but it's just, that's the way that we're going to be viewed, because we're trying to congregate at a time when things are high. I still feel very strongly that our kids need a platform to speak. They have been locked up in their houses and probably watching us with our anxiety and us freaking out. Not, you know, children are, they, you know, people say all the time, well, children are resilient. You know, I get all that. And I do believe that children are resilient, but it doesn't mean that what's going on right now is not affecting them. We have to give them the platform to say how they feel, that they don't feel comfortable being tested without parents there, that there should be choices for what is going on, and ultimatums. And we all know that we have to respect social distancing. If we're not going to be 6 feet apart, then people should wear a mask. I understand that. I agree. I have 2 people in my family that are in, you know, the medical field. My mom works at a nursing home. My sister works at a hospital. So I get it. But that we're always going to get some sort of something about whatever we're trying to fight for. But at the end of the day, I'm not here just fighting for my daughter. I am fighting for the parents that had no choice but to sign that consent. I'm fighting for the parents that feel backed against the wall. I'm fighting for parents that have special needs children that know that the anxiety is high and this medical things freak them out. There are children out there that have real anxiety about medical procedures. And we have to respect, you know, every aspect of it. Are we going to hit every single target? I don't know. I'm trying to. I really am. I'm trying to look at this at all angles. I'm thinking about, you know, all the kids that are in the homeless shelters that belong in school. That's their only out for a meal and a place to be with their teachers that really do love them. So I'm doing this at a place from my heart. I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm not getting, you know, this is a lot of work. I didn't sleep all night last night, just tossing and turning, thinking about what else can I do to help another person. And that's the place I'm coming from with this rally. I hope that I help other parents. I hope that the resources that I've gained can help them as well. And that I feel that we need to gain a community and stick together and fight this battle, because we all know, like I said, we all know that the mandatory vaccines are going to be next. I am not against anybody that feels comfortable with that vaccine. I hope that they, you know, I hope that everything works out for them. I really do. I know for myself, I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable with putting something in my body that wasn't properly tested. I don't know what the 99% effectiveness is. I don't know what the studies are. So I'm trying to educate
on the child.
Yeah.
What is testing on children 12 and older? Now, this is another thing. The middle school and the high school isn't back to school yet. I had a theory that it was because of the mandatory testing, that if you try and swab a child in high school who's 6'5", 200 pounds, and he's not happy, he may do something to hurt the person testing him. So I thought on that aspect. And then you go to middle school, they may be a little bit mouthier. They may be able to stick up for themselves and say, no, you're not touching me. Get away from me with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you go to grammar school and you have the most vulnerable because the age exists, the teacher, oh, baby, it's going to be fun, patting them on the hand, whatever. But now I thought, okay, they aren't going to send them back until the vaccine becomes available, and they're going to make it mandatory to send the kids 12 and older with the vaccine. So now you got all these people that we have been trying to get together and do this and do that. And again, if you're okay with it because you're just, you know, whatever, it is what it is. I signed, my kid goes to school. That's fine. And nobody's arguing with you about that. But if you are signing it, feeling forced to sign it, it's coming from the wrong place.
Yeah.
And should not
Forced
do it.
consent is not consent, and that's what we all need to understand, that forced consent is not consent.
And
then
that's why we need this rally, Jamie, because it's going to give the one opportunity for us to find a middle ground, I think.
I think
It's
that's
not
the
about
stepping
making
stone.
budget.
Exactly. We need to start
We have a
somewhere.
counteroffer. We have a counteroffer on the table. And that counteroffer makes sense. And so there should be no reason that the DOE doesn't agree with.
Jen, I have a question for you.
Every single middle school and high school family, because those kids are not in school, they should be at this rally.
Of
There is
course.
no reason. It's, you know what, even if you know you don't, you know, even if you don't, you're consensual, right? Why can't you support the people that are not? Why can't you back them?
Well, this is what I said last night. I said that this is a dedication to the original freedom fighters that fought this in 2018 that got thrown out of school. 26,000 DOE students lost their religious exemption, and they were the ones that started this fight. And I've been following them closely, and it broke my heart to see my friend sign her son out of school. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, this is my son. I need to have control over what happens to him medically because I know what goes on with him. There was some issues with him that he couldn't have certain vaccines because there was a reaction to it. And from there on, I was like, no, this is not my problem because my daughter could be in school. That's not the way this should be. We have to stick together. Not a lot of people stuck together with that. And now here we are. What they were warning us about in 2018 is at our doorstep. What are we going to do?
They ridiculed them. People started anti-vaxxer. What is wrong with their choice not to vaccinate? No one should make fun of anybody. Nobody should. You make a decision. We all have decisions. Parenting 101, parenting 101. There are parents that let their kids drink soda. There are kids that don't let their kids drink soda. Nobody should question or ridicule or it's choice. You know, it's not, you know, there's so many other things, there's so many realistic arguments to have in life.
And that's what we're asking for is a choice. Just give us a choice.
With my son in the morning going to school. The kid is a big boy. He's 130 pounds. He's a center in football. He's a brick. The kid isn't hot. The kid is a hot kid. He doesn't wear clothes in my house but underwears. He's always shirtless. I fight with him to get dressed in the morning because I know that somebody's going to say, you can't get Jake in pants. Listen, I have bigger battles to face in my life. I'm not going to fight with Jake over what he wants to wear because if he's comfortable in shorts in school, let him wear shorts because I'll fight with him more over an 80 on a test.
Yeah.
I pick my battles. I pick them wisely, I think. You know, some of them sometimes, you know, with everything else that's been going on in my head, I've been snapping a little bit more than I should. But, you know, there's certain things and like a lot of this is just unnecessary. And those people, I have religious friends that didn't vaccinate, and I have friends that are very organic and very healthy and chose not to vaccinate. And I would never judge anybody for that. I would never do that. And it's just shameful that nobody backed these people. And Hoylman got away with saying that our kids are on our property. Elizabeth Glass is like ridiculed on the anti-vaxxing side of it that's been trying to outseat him.
So we went long today, but we have a lot of people, and it seems like people are interested. They're still with us. So, Jamie, I think that you bring up a great point with the whole anti-vax situation, because that's the next hurdle we're going to be facing, not just the COVID vaccination, but so many other vaccinations that they're talking about giving. And in Washington, D.C. recently, the school district voted that the school could vaccinate the kids with the, I can't remember, the HPV.
Without parental consent, yeah.
Without parental consent.
I wrote emails and letters to them as well. I mean, I don't live in DC, but how could that not be our battle? These are kids.
I mean, to decide that your kid's going to get an HPV vaccination without your knowledge is, I mean, it's invasive. They don't have the extensive medical report that the family has. So how could they do that? It just doesn't make sense. Jen, I'm sorry. Jen, I told you to turn down your volume. I meant to tell Jamie. Jamie, can you try and turn down your volume on your speaker? So Jen,
Is that better?
Yeah.
Is that better? Okay.
What will it be like for a kid who gets yanked out of class to and then be told that they're going to get vaccinated? I mean, how do you psychologically ready your child for that?
It depends on the child. I mean, look, slam dunk. If a child has an anxiety problem or an anxiety disorder, that is going to cause them a really big problem. I mean, there are some kids who may just go woof, but I think that more than not, I think there are kids that would have a problem with that. Again, school and medical were never supposed to meet, and now they are. And there are many children who are petrified about going to the doctor. And there are so many anxiety disorders that involve specific phobias of medical kinds of things. So I think that it's going to create a whole other sort of anxiety disorder in children in terms of going to school. It's not good.
It's not good. And then we'll see dropouts, grades rise.
Jen, I wanted to ask you a question. Because when we're taking these kids out, and obviously when kids are at a certain age, they understand that a child is leaving the classroom right now. Doesn't this touch upon HIPAA laws and privacy? Wouldn't it be known if that child comes up positive, let's just say a couple days later, because it's not a rapid test, you actually have to wait for the results. Now the whole school knows who shut down the school, just like the whole school knows who came in with the lice, or the whole school knows who came in with the stomach virus. Everybody speaks, everybody talks. When do we start protecting the children?
You're right, JB. It does intersect with the HIPAA laws. However, my understanding is through Cuomo and the executive orders, and since we are in a pandemic, the rules changed and the rules become more flexible. So the right to privacy is not respected as it would be pre-COVID.
Well, with echoing what you just said. Yeah, because echoing what you just said, we couldn't be with family members that were in the hospital. So a family members through this, through the height of this, died alone in hospitals. And it a lot of ethics were broken because we used the COVID, but and with keeping people safe, not coming into the hospital, staying with people, and people have passed away alone in these hospitals. And it's just when do we finally take the power back and be with our family members? And one of the memories I have of someone passing away was being alone in a room with my grandmother in the nursing home when she died. It was years ago, before all this stuff. So I had that moment with her. I held her hand, and that was denied to so many people in the world, not just Staten Island.
And we had a governor take a victory lap on it. How proud he was.
He's getting an Emmy for allowing people to, because I know a lot of the nurses, they held their phones to FaceTime families to say goodbye to their families. How do we?
I have an experience with my family members who died of COVID. I was FaceTimed with them, and yeah, I know.
You understand? So all of this, the HIPAA laws and all these other things, and it's just, when do we say enough is enough? You told us that we couldn't hold the hands of our family members that were suffering and dying. You're telling us that we can't hold the hands of our child that is being forced to get a test, even though they don't have symptoms. We're testing people that aren't even symptomatic. That's a whole other conversation. Believe me, I understand that. But for the safety of everybody, do we have to have, negative tests be in school? Yes, we do. But everything is going out the window. We're losing our rights for safety, and that's a very dangerous, slippery slope. And that's why I got the passion and the fire to do what I'm doing. I don't know where it's going to go from here, but I know that I did jump on board with some people that do know what they're doing, and I'm grateful for it because I'm learning every single day.
And, you guys are brave, and I think everyone else needs to be brave here now. It's time, not to be quiet anymore. I see 3 people, well, including my partner, four people here who are not afraid to speak about it. And I think a lot of people are afraid to speak about it.
They are.
They have city jobs. They're afraid their child will be treated differently. So you have to be brave now more than ever and speak up and get involved in this lawsuit, because otherwise you're surrendering. Do not surrender.
I agree. It's surrendering.
Well, and that's exactly where we need to be. I'll say it over and over again. The way the people who want to take away your rights get that to happen is they talk to all your friends and tell them to ostracize you. They say that you're crazy. They say that you're wrong. They blackball you. They find ways to make others walk away from you and question your judgment. And then they isolate you, and then you give up your rights. If you don't believe me, just read the book 1984 by George Orwell. Or if you don't want to read the book, watch the movie. And you'll see that this is what they do.
They say The Handmaid's Tale. My girlfriend told me, you better not watch that.
Yeah.
It is exactly, the world is unfolding exactly the way that show is.
That's right.
I won't watch it.
To a lesser extent, I have great fun with it. Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. I mean, if you just watch that movie, the parallels are just amazing. That people will be willing to give up their rights. But as in Demolition Man, when the great Dr. Cocteau was exposed for being a lunatic by the underground fringe that literally lived underground, I am very proud to be surrounded by the underground fringe in Jamie and Gina, Joffrey, Jen Bohr-Cuevas, and my own partner, George Passariello, and so many others of you out there. We have Violet Mancuso that joined us. We have Sal Curto that joined us. We have Sam Pirazzolla that joined us. We have Christopher Aloysius Fidel was on with us.
That's Pastor Chris for Leticia.
What's that?
That's Pastor Chris.
That's Pastor Chris. We have Bonnie Stanner.
Chris, he's a very cool dude. Nice to have you here. Very nice guy.
Pastor Chris has opened up many rallies for us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this up now. We did an hour and a half. I'm going to remind you, www.carenyc.com to become a part of the lawsuit. On Wednesday, December 16th. What's the address, J-Man?
4456 Amboy Road, Staten Island, New York, 10312.
Okay, so at 3 o'clock. Wear your mask.
Wear your mask, please. Be respectful. Social distance.
Pretend that you are going shopping for food. We're not going to let you in out of mask. All right?
Bring your signs. Bring your flags. Bring your representation of why you feel it's important to be there. We're doing this for you.
We want to open up the schools. We want the option of testing the kids ourselves and handing in the information. We want the New York City DOE to meet us halfway.
Yes.
If you want to know what's going on, go on the New York City DOE Parents Coalition page on Facebook, where Gina and Christina run that page and get the information. Get active. If you're not in New York City, reach out to Jen, reach out to Damian, reach out to Gina, George, or myself. Get active where you are. We can stop government intrusion if we just make it our business to stand up and stand with each other. Don't run away the minute you get what you want, and don't capitulate. It might be the last time, the last right you give up, it might be your last right you have. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today.
Juliana just wants to show you a picture real quick she made for her friends for Hanukkah.
Oh, beautiful.
Hanukkah, I think, it starts this week, and I think it's Sunday. So my daughter made this for all you guys that are watching out there.
Thank you, Juliana, very much.
And thank you all for everything. Thank you guys for standing by us.
Okay, we'll see you next Wednesday at 12 noon. Thanks, everybody. We're out.
Yeah.